Good afternoon. I'm John Weiler with the Sovereign Passage Assembly, and this is our daily brief for November 18th, 2018. And we're going to begin our study this week with Parashah Toldot, and Toldot means generations. And this takes place in Bere'shiyth, chapter 25, verse 19 to chapter 28, verse 9. And today we're going to start off with our study of chapter 25, verse 19 through verse 34. And as we're going to be going through this, we're going to be focusing on struggle. All right, that'll be our theme for this day. Now, struggle for me, as far as a theme, has been really the last three parshas. Focusing on Avraham, when we first meet Avram and then Avraham, and how he lived in the nations that were around him, how he lived his life by faith in the words of YAHUAH, and didn't falter, and he was not slow to act. We're called to look from where the rock from which we were hewn, all right, to look towards Avraham as our example in living in the nations. Okay, we have our example for living, which is YAHUAH HaMashiach, the fullness of the Torah or the way of YAHUAH. So we see that as how we are to behave in walking in relation with YAHUAH, or striving to be yachad, or one, or beloved one, with YAHUAH, Yahusha. So we have that example for how we are to approach. Then we also have the example for how we are to live and exist in the unbelieving nations around us, with Avraham. And for those of us who are still coming out of the world, it's a challenge. It's a struggle. And the more that we learn in His Word, the more that's revealed to us at a given time, depending on where we are in this path of seeking righteousness, we will see more and see a more detailed path of the way to behave, or the way to walk. And it becomes a challenge to us, because we're challenged from the very beginning. We're going to continue to be challenged. But that's the way. That is the way. So we can't look at it as something that's too hard for us to do, because we're told it's not at all. It's just where our heart's desire is. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so let's begin. We do a lot of reading here, because this is where we should begin, and where we should end is always in His Word. So let's go to Bere'shiyth, chapter 25, verse 19. And I'm going to read. I'm reading in the Et Sefer. That's the word that I have chosen to use here. So you can follow along. So the wording here is going to be very close to the 1610 King James Version. It'll be very close to that. All right, so verse 19, chapter 25, and these are the generations of Yitzhak, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Yitzhak, and Yitzhak was 40 years old when he took Rivkah to be his woman, the daughter of Bethuel, the Arami of Padan Aram, the sister to Lavan, the Arami. And Yitzhak entreated YAHUAH for his woman, because she was barren. And YAHUAH was entreated of him, and Rivkah his woman conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of YAHUAH, and YAHUAH said unto her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from your generation. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Yaakov. And Yitzhak was 80 years old when she bore them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Yaakov was an upright man, dwelling in tents. And Yitzhak loved Esau, because he did eat of his venison, but Rivkah loved Yaakov. And Yaakov sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Yaakov, "Feed me, I pray you, with that same red pottage, for I am faint." Therefore was his name called Edom. And Yaakov says, "Sell me this day your birthright." And Esau says, "Behold, I'm at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me?" And Yaakov says, "Swear to me this day." And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Yaakov. And Yaakov gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up, and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Okay, that's quite a story there. And excuse me for using that word story. That's quite an account there of what happened. And it seems it covers a large span of time there in a very short space. But we begin here with Yitzhak, Isaac, being 40 years old. And he was at that age when he took Rivkah, or Rebekah, to be his woman, the daughter of Bethuel, the Arami of Padan Aram, and the sister to Lavan, or Laban. Okay, she was barren, couldn't have kids. And it says that Yitzhak entreated YAHUAH for his woman because she was barren. And then YAHUAH was entreated of him, and Rivkah, his woman, conceived. Now, when they were born, he was 80, so he's 60 when they were born. So at that point, so from the point that Yitzhak and Rivkah were married to where the twins were born was 20 years. Okay, so 20 years had passed right there. So while this was happening, or while she had conceived, and she was with children, but she didn't know this yet, she felt something that she didn't feel was right inside. And so she entreats YAHUAH and says, "What's happening? Okay, why is this happening?" And YAHUAH says to her, "You have 2 nations in your womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from your generation." So you have 2 types of people are going to be separated from your generation. And the one people will be stronger than the other people, and the elder is going to serve the younger. Okay, the first to come out was Esau. And Esau was red all over, hairy. So he's a hairy baby with red hair. And they called him Esau, okay, as if he were already formed, in a sense. And then the second to come out was Yaakov, and Yaakov was hanging on to the heel of Esau. All right, and Yaakov means heel catcher, all right, or supplanter. So that's the picture that we have, okay, of the birth of Esau and Yaakov. And Esau grew differently than Yaakov. Okay, he's described differently. He's described as a cunning hunter, a man of the field, in contrast to Yaakov being an upright man, dwelling in tents. And it says that Yitzhak loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, okay, of the produce, I guess you could call, of the production of Esau's hands. But Rivkah loved Yaakov. So we see kind of a split, in a sense, from this particular account in the Torah. And then we get the account where Esau sells his birthright to Yaakov. I think it would be really worthwhile here to just focus on what the birthright is, what's really being talked about here. We have a lot of today, we have a lot of thoughts, pictures that come up when we see a birthright, because later in this Parsha, we see where Yaakov takes Esau's blessing too. So you got a birthright and a blessing. So when we look at the birthright here, the generally would go to the eldest, generally. But that's not the case here. Okay, and it's not the case with Yitzhak either, because he also carried the birthright from Avraham. Okay, and that came to Avraham from Shem and Noach, and then from Noach up his line that we got in the beginning of Bere'shiyth and Noach, all the way to Adam, okay, to Adam. The birthright is the way of YAHUAH. Okay, it's the Torah, what we picture as the Torah today. Okay, how we are to think, speak, and act. All right, as YAHUAH, to walk in His ways, and then by our example, on how to live or how to be through Yahushua HaMashiach, the fullness of the Torah, or the birthright in this case. Okay, so we can see here that Esau was focused on the things of the world, okay, the things that he could go out and do, and he had no desire for the life to come. Okay, because that's what carrying Yah's light does. All right, that helps to shine in the dark the life to come. Okay, so Esau had no desire for this. All right, so Yaakov did, though. Okay, he was an upright man dwelling in tents. All right, so Esau sells his birthright in a very kind of a strange account, in my opinion, just by reading this, a strange account for food. Okay, for a bowl of pottage of lentils and some bread. Okay, and it's but what it says there, that's what it meant to Esau. He had no desire for it, no desire to walk in the way of YAHUAH. Okay, and Yaakov did. Yaakov did very much so. Okay, so here though, and this is the beginning really at the birth or even in the womb, we see the struggle of Esau and Yaakov. And to the point that Rivkah is concerned. She's concerned enough to approach YAHUAH to find out what's going on here. Because it's only after Yitzhak, 20 years of praying to YAHUAH so that she would be with child, that this occurred, and now this event is happening that's causing her alarm. This physical event inside of her is causing her alarm. But they're struggling. They're fighting inside the womb. Okay, and then the first out is Esau. And then on the way out, Yaakov is grabbing the heel of Esau as he comes out. Okay, now let's talk about this struggle here. Okay, because this is what we should be looking at right now today. We have a tough time. We have a tough time in a way that we don't quite understand until we set our sights on the way of YAHUAH. Up to that point, And I mean truly set our sights on the way of YAHUAH. And that means to give up everything, to include our jobs, our families, our own personal internal desires. We make that concerted effort to get rid of the things that we like to do, that feel good to us and we enjoy it. But we make a concerted effort to get rid of it. Only then do we realize how tough our time is today, how hard things are for us. We have probably the best standards of living, what we could just imagine, I guess, and that's a subjective term. It can mean different things, I guess, to different people. But as far as recreational time, we seem to have more of that. We have communication in the way that we've never had before, and we can have more comfort. All right, I wouldn't say that we're more healthy now. I think a lot of that would cause unhealthy lifestyle and living. But when it comes right down to it, we have a lot of distractions that come from comfort. And it's those distractions that are killing us. Because we don't see our lives as something that we have to struggle in, necessarily to where we have to get up, light the fire in the morning. We have to prep our food. We wash our clothes once a week because it's so much work. We got to get, we don't have washing machines, stuff like that. We don't live like that anymore. We don't live like 2 generations ago did. So even though we may worry about stuff and we have things that are compounded on us spiritually, we're really not that bad off when it comes down to the physical things around us. So the struggle to, kind of exist is really, how much, to what degree of comfort do we want in our lives? It's really what it kind of comes down to. Do we want to work harder to have a better house, and to have my day off, where I can just sit around, not do anything and just relax and do this and that. The struggle is not there, okay? Not like it has been in generations past. And that's part of the problem. And we don't really realize that until we begin with the struggle. And the struggle is not with, what am I going to do to be better off tomorrow physically than I am today? What can I do to have this purpose-driven life to change it? So I can have a bigger house or a better car or something like that. The struggle is, how do I get away from that? How do I get away from the things that I've always been working for, that I've always known and been told to work towards? How do we get away from that? And we don't ever look at it in that light until we start to separate ourselves from the world, the struggle. Because all those things that we are focusing on, that we've always focused on in our entirety of our lives, lead us away from YAHUAH, lead us away from Him. But we don't know that. We don't look at it that way until we start to hearken to the words of YAHUAH Yahushua. He tells us very directly that we have to give all that up. If we can't give that up, then we can't be His disciple. We can't learn from Him. That's what He's saying. We can't learn from Him. We got to give that up, and then we can learn from Him. Okay, so the struggle. Where is that struggle coming from? It's from internal desire. It's those very things that were just mentioned. Let's go to James very quickly. Chapter 4, it says, "From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence, even of your lusts, that war in your members? Ye lust and have not, ye kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not, because you ask not. Ye ask and receive not, because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lusts. Ye men and women that are breakers of wedlock, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with YAHUAH? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is an enemy of Yah. Okay. So it says, where do these wars and fightings come from among you? They come from the lusts that war within you. That's what he's saying. The stuff that's you're fighting within yourself. Your spirit and your body are fighting. It says, you lust and have not. You kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. You fight in war, yet you have not, because you ask not. But then when you ask, you receive not, because you ask amiss, or ask wrongly, that you may consume it upon your lusts. Okay? All right? That's a challenge right there. Because, we've been told to pray for these things. Pray for money, or, pray for health, pray for all this stuff here. Pray for a house, whatever that is. But what do we do with those things? What do we do with the money that we think we need? Well, we use it on ourselves, right? We do it with the things that we want. What do we do with our health? Well, whatever we want to do now that we're healthy, we can go right back to focusing on ourselves. And he says, ye men and women that are breakers of wedlock, know ye not that friendship of the world is enmity with YAHUAH? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is an enemy of Yah. Okay. We have to pay attention to that. Okay, because what does it mean to be a friend of the world? It means to desire the things of the world. Okay, just like Esau. Desire the things of the world. Let's go to Romans chapter 7. Because we get a good account here from Paul the worker that talks about the war inside of us. Okay? Let's start with chapter 7, verse 1. It says, know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the Torah, how that the Torah has dominion over man as long as he lives. For the woman which has a man is bound by the mitzvah to her man so long as he lives, but if the man be dead, she is loosed from that mitzvah of her man. So then if, while her man lives, she be married to another man, she shall be a woman that breaks wedlock. But if her man be dead, she is free from that mitzvah, so that she is no breaker of wedlock, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead, so that mitzvah by the body of Mashiach, that ye should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto Yah. For when we were dead in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were motivated by that mitzvah, did work on our members to bring forth fruit unto death. But now we are delivered from that mitzvah, that being dead wherein we were held, that we should serve in the newness of the Ruach, and not in the oldness of the letter. What shall we say then? Is the Torah sin? Never. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the Torah. For I had not known lust, except the Torah had said, you shall not lust. But sin, taken occasion by that mitzvah, wrought in me all manner of lusting. For without the Torah, sin was dead. For I was alive without the Torah once. But when that mitzvah came, sin revived, and I died. And that mitzvah, which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death. For sin, taken occasion by that mitzvah, deceived me, and by it slew me. Wherefore the Torah is holy, and that mitzvot holy and just and good. Was then that which is good made death unto me? Never. But sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin by the mitzvah might become exceedingly sinful. For we know that the Torah is of the Ruach, but I am carnal, trafficked by sin. For that which I do I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that do I. If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto the Torah that it is good. Now then it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwells in me. For I know that in me, that is, in my flesh, dwells no good thing. For to will is present within me, but how to perform that which is good I find not. For the good that I would I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do. Now, if I do that I would not, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwells in me. I find then a rule, that when I do good, evil is present within me. For I delight in the Torah of YAHUAH after the inward man. But I see another Torah in my members, warring against the Torah of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the Torah of sin which is in my members. O wretched man that I am! Who shall deliver me from the body of this death? I thank YAHUAH through Yahushua HaMashiach, our Adonai. So then with the mind I myself serve the Torah of YAHUAH, but with the flesh the Torah of sin. Okay. So we have a battle here, is the lesson of the spirit and the flesh. Okay, the things of this world and the things of the world to come. And Paul says, O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? I thank YAHUAH through Yahushua HaMashiach, our Adonai. Through Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay. So, the fight, this struggle. He says, but I see another Torah in my members warring against the Torah of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the Torah of sin, which is in my members. All right. So, the good that we think we do, for the good that I would, I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do. Now, if I do that I would not, it is no more I that do it, but sin that dwells in me. I find then a rule that when I would do good, evil is present with me. Okay? We cannot do either without one or the other being there. Okay? For us to do good, which is follow the commands of Yah, all right, the way of Yah, evil is always there too. That desire to walk away is always there too. That's the rule. And that's something we should pay close attention to. Who will deliver me from this? I thank YAHUAH through Yahushua HaMashiach, my Adonai. Okay? So that's our deliverance there. Okay? But it's the deliverance of the forgiveness so we can enter back in to that relationship. So forgiveness for repentance or repentance for forgiveness. They're the same. Okay, you can't have one without the other. So he gives us the opportunity, YAHUAH, through Yahushua HaMashiach, to come back into that relationship. Once that occurs, though, that's when we start to see the struggle. Because we are starting at that moment to separate ourselves from the world. All right, to purge the evil from us, to take the evil. And evil is everything that's focused on this life, that's in direct rejection and rebellion and behaving with hostility towards the way of YAHUAH. That's sin. Okay, that's sin. That's Yah's definition of sin. So the rule there is, whenever there is good being done, there's also the presence of evil or the opposite. Now we have to be very We have to be very cognizant of that, because it is a struggle, to the point to where we say, oh, what a wretched person we are, because it's not easy. Who is going to deliver me? I thank YAHUAH through Yahushua HaMashiach, our Adonai. Okay, so we talk about this, though, in the sense of our focus now. All right, our focus should no longer be of the things of the flesh, as is put there in many of the letters from the worker, okay, Paul the worker, that are written to the ecclesias, to the called out, and that's who we are now. All right, we got to really think about who we are seeking, and what does that make us? Okay, so we're seeking righteousness, seeking YAHUAH, all right, with everything that we have, and that is making us the called out of YAHUAH. Okay, so we are the ecclesia, we are the called out. So we don't focus now on the things of the material, of the body, of this world right here. We focus completely on the spiritual, which is the life to come, seeking first the kingdom of Yah. That's what Yahushua tells us, is that once we do that, all of this stuff will be provided to us, because Yah takes care of his. Okay? So, because we are focused on those things, our lives here, we understand that we are bits of smoke. Okay, as Yaakov or James tells us in his letter, we are here in such a short amount of time that we can't realize that, until it's almost right on top of us. We don't realize it unless we are diagnosed with something, or we're old, okay, or we think we're old, or diagnosed with something that's possibly terminal, or somebody just dies around us. So we're confronted with death. And even with that confrontation of death, that we see, that only lasts a short amount of time. That goes away. We'll still remember it, possibly depending on what the trauma of the situation was, but we'll move on with our lives. It'll be just that short amount of time that we'll think, man, we don't have a lot of time here. That's every day, though. That's every minute of every day. We don't have a lot of time here. And that's another thing that's so important to us, is that we look at this now, that we don't have a lot of time. We need to get on Yah's path as quickly as we can. We see the truth. This is the truth. And we know that this is the way. So how quickly can I get on the way, the way of YAHUAH, and start to live as Yahushua, or Mashiach, as he walked, the fullness of the way of YAHUAH, the Torah. How quickly can we do that? Because we see it. We see the importance of that, because it's for the life to come. All right, well, let's finish up here with 4 Ezra. Okay, and again, I'm reading out of the Et Sefer, and that has these books that are included in here. And let's start with 4 Ezra, chapter 6, and it's an interesting book, because it's Ezra the scribe speaking with YAHUAH about why things are happening here to his set apart people, Yasharel, the upright of El, and looking at the state of the world just in general. Okay, there's a point in here, we might read it here, about what the things that, without knowing the truth, we would be still struggling through life. Physical life is not easy. You got to work real hard to get stuff, and to get ahead and do all this. This stuff that we used to do in our lives. I used to work 16-hour days. No big deal. When I was in the military, it's however long. That didn't matter. Get on a sleep schedule so you're not a babbling idiot. But that wouldn't. Your days are long and your work is hard, and there's not a guarantee outside of the way of Yah. There's not a guarantee you're going to have anything at the end. You could just work until you're dead. So it's not easy. But one of the conversations here is, how the concept that you're going to be working so hard and not thinking about the life to come. And then at the end, when this body is now done and your time here is done, you're going to be faced with the consequences of your direction. Okay, of the body directing the spirit versus the spirit directing the body. The consequences of that. And when we understand what that really means, is how terrible of a concept that is, that we struggle in this life only to have the consequence in the next of pain and, separation from YAHUAH Yahusha. Okay, so it's a very interesting book, and I suggest everyone reading it. We learn first, when we're coming to the knowledge of the truth, we learn the Torah first. Okay, learn the Torah of Moshe. Learn what it means. Get the foundation in place first. And then look to what people might say are the titles given as extra biblical. When you get to a certain point in studying the word of Yah, you'll start to realize that the word that we have been growing up with, you start to look at where it comes from. Okay, who said that this is now the Bible? Okay, and why does it have these particular books in there? And it's not to doubt anything. Okay, we're not doubting the 66 books that are in, most of our modern Bibles. In fact, we praise Yah that we have that completeness together, because it is coherent from the very beginning to the very end, and there is no contradiction. Praise Yah. It's His word. And we have it. We have it. But what we also have are things that aren't in there, too. And who says that things are written through the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit? Who says those things? Because that's a tough thing. I mean, we have to really kind of challenge ourselves there, too. Because Yah and His Spirit is something that, I don't think a lot of us truly quite understand until a certain point in diligent study and conforming to our HaMashiach, Yahusha. Okay, so we're not going to talk much. We're not going to talk more about that, but we are reading. I am going to read from something that is not in our modern Bibles today, but for Ezra or to Ezra or for Ezra would have been included in the 1610 King James Bible. Okay, just to give some perspective here. All right, so going to for Ezra chapter 6 we'll start at verse 7. Excuse me. Now this is Ezra. He's speaking to an angel of YAHUAH. And Ezra's been asking questions of YAHUAH, speaking through this messenger. Okay. In verse 7 he says, Then I answered and said, What shall be the parting asunder of the times? Speaking of the end. Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that follows? And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Yitzhak, when Yaakov and Esau were born of him, Yaakov's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Yaakov is the beginning of it that follows. The hand of man is betwixt the heel and the hand. Other question, Ezra, ask you not. Okay, so this picture here that we're given, it says, "He said unto me, from Abraham unto Yitzhak, when Yaakov and Esau were born of him, Yaakov's hand held first the heel of Esau, for Esau is the end of the world, and Yaakov is the beginning of it that follows." That's true. That's the truth. Of course it's the truth, but we can see that now. Okay, and we see this struggle in the womb, and the first to come, being born, was man. It was man. And then on the heel of man was the upright of Yah. Okay, so those of us in this world where we focus on the things of the world, and then we begin our change to where we now are becoming holy as Yah is holy, to where we see the end of that world and the beginning of the one to come. It's amazing. Okay, we'll read on here because there's a lot of good stuff here. It said, "I answered then and said, O YAHUAH Adonai, if I have found favor in your sight, I beseech you, show your servant the end of your tokens, whereof you showed me part the last night. So he answered and he said unto me, Stand up on your feet and hear a mighty sounding voice. And it shall be as if it were a great motion, but the place where you stand shall not be moved. And therefore when it speaks, be not afraid, for the world is of the end, and the foundation of the earth is understood. And why? Because the speech of these things trembles and is moved, for it knows that the end of these things must be changed. And it happened that when I had heard it, I stood upon my feet and hearkened, and behold, there was a voice that spoke, and the sound of it was like the sound of many waters. And it said, Behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh, and to visit them that dwell upon the earth. And I will begin to make inquisition of them, what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled, and when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, then will I show these tokens. The Sepharim shall be opened before the expanse, and they shall see altogether. And the children of a year old shall speak with their voices. The women with child shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months old, and they shall live and be raised up. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. And the shofar shall give a sound, which when every man hears, they shall be suddenly afraid. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell within. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. Whosoever remains from all these that I have told you shall escape, and see my Yeshua, and the end of your world. And the men that are received shall see it, who have not tasted death from their birth, and the heart of the inhabitants shall be changed, and turned into another meaning. For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for belief, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which has been so long without fruit, shall be declared. Okay, and we know the truth is the word of Yah, and the word of YAHUAH. And the truth, which has been so long without fruit, shall be declared. Okay, we're not there yet. We're not there, for sure. Okay, for sure. We're actually at that point now where at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. And I'm not talking about politics or any of that other things of the world around us in that sense. We're talking spiritually. Think about this. When you go and talk to somebody about the word of Yah, some will be very polite, and yeah, they may have like an understanding of what they know in the churches and things like that, and they may want to talk to you about it in that particular way. But then after a time, they're not going to want to. They're not going to want to talk about it, or after a time, they're going to get upset with you. and then it's going to turn into a fight. All right? And then it's going to turn into, I'm not going to be around you anymore. Okay? And it'll be something to where, to even be in close vicinity with one another, there will be the tension that is caused by the spiritual conflict. Okay? So we're not talking about things that we look around and see, like so-and-so hates the president, that person likes it, whatever that is, okay? Whatever's going on has nothing to do with this here. We're talking about the life to come, okay, versus the life of now. Excuse me. Okay, so going a little bit further, because I just want to read a couple passages out of Ezra, and then we'll call it a day. Speaks forward, Ezra. He relates the entirety of the 6 days of creation, and then he sums it up, and he says, "And now, O YAHUAH, behold, these heathen, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and to devour us. But we, your people, whom you have called your firstborn, your Yaqid, or your beloved son, and your fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure?" And when I had made an end of speaking these words, there was sent unto me the angel which had been sent unto me the nights before. And he said unto me, Up, Ezra, and hear the words that I am come to tell you. And I said, Speak on, my Elohim. Then he said unto me, The sea is set in a wide place, that it might be deep and great. But put the case, the entrance were narrow, and like a river. Who then could go into the sea to look upon it, and to rule it? If he went not through the narrow, how could he come into the broad? There is also another thing. A city is built, and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things. The entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand, and on the left a deep water. And there is but one path between them, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could be but one man go there at once. If this city now were given unto a man for inheritance, if he never shall pass the danger set before it, how shall he receive this inheritance? And I said, It is so, Adonai. Then he said unto me, Even so also is Yasharel's portion, because for their sakes I made the world. And when Adam transgressed my statutes, then there was decreed that now is done. Then were the entrances of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail. They are but few and evil, full of perils, and very painful. For the entrances of the elder world were wide and sure, and brought immortal fruit. If then they that live labor not to enter these straight and vain things, they can never receive those that are laid up for them. Now therefore, why disquiet yourself, seeing you are but a corruptible man? And why are you moved, whereas you are but mortal? Why have you not considered in your mind this thing that is to come, rather than that which is present? Then answered I and said, O YAHUAH, Adonai, you have ordained in your Torah that the righteous should inherit these things, but that the wicked should perish. Nevertheless, the righteous shall suffer straight things, and hope for wide. For they that have done wickedly have suffered the straight things, and yet shall not see the wide. And he said unto me, There is no judge above Elohim, and none that has understanding above El Elyon. For there be many that perish in this life, because they despise the Torah of Elohim that is set before them. For Elohim has given straight commandment to such as came, what they should do to live, even as they came, and what they should observe to avoid punishment. Nevertheless, they were not obedient unto him, but spoke against him, and imagined vain things, and deceived themselves by their wicked deeds, and said El Elyon, that he is not, and knew not his ways. But his Torah have they despised, and denied his covenants. In his statutes have they not been faithful, and have not performed his works. And therefore, Ezra, for the empty are empty things, and for the full are the full things. Behold, the time shall come, that these tokens which I have told you shall come to pass, and the bride shall appear, and she, coming forth, shall be seen, that now is withdrawn from the earth. And whosoever is delivered from the foresaid evil shall see my wonders. And then he speaks about Yahusha, his son Yahusha, coming. All right. He says, why have you not considered in your mind this thing that is to come, rather than the things that are present? Okay, we'll step forward now to 4 Ezra chapter 8. And speaking of those who will be going into or becoming one with YAHUAH, Yahusha, the kingdom of YAHUAH, being few. Okay, because think about what we just were told right there. Okay, that for there be many that perish in this life because they despise the Torah of Elohim that is set before them. So that many will perish in this life because they despise the way of Yah, the way of YAHUAH. So chapter 8 says, and Elyon has made this world for many, but the world to come for few. I will tell you a similitude, Ezra. As when you ask the earth, it shall say unto you that it gives much mold, whereof earthen vessels are made, but little dust of gold comes of. Even so is the course of this present world. There be many created, but few shall be saved. So answered I and said, swallow them down, O my soul, understanding, and devour wisdom. For you have agreed to give ear and are willing to prophesy, for you have no longer space than only to live. O YAHUAH, if you suffer not your servant, that we may pray before you, and you give us seed unto our heart and culture to our understanding, that there may come fruit of it. How shall each man live that is corrupt, who bears the place of a man? For you are alone, and we are all one workmanship of your hands, like as you have said. For when the body is fashioned now in the mother's womb, and you give it members, your creature is preserved in fire and water, and 9 months your workmanship endures, your creature which is created in her. But that which keeps and is kept, both shall be preserved when the time comes. The womb preserves, delivers up the things that grew in it. For you have commanded out of the parts of the body, that is to say, out of the breasts, milk be given, which is the fruit of the breasts, that the thing which is fashioned may be nourished for a time till you dispose it to your mercy. You brought it up with your righteousness and nurtured it in your Torah, and reformed it with your judgment. And you shall mortify it as your creature and quicken it as your work. If therefore you shall destroy him, which with so great labor was fashioned, it is an easy thing to be ordained by your commandment, that the thing which was made might be preserved. Now therefore, Adonai, I will speak. Touching man in general, you know best, but touching your people, for whose sake I am sorry, and for your inheritance, for whose cause I mourn, and for Yasharal, for whom I am heavy, and for Yaakov, for whose sake I am troubled. Therefore will I begin to pray before you for myself and for them, for I see the falls of us that dwell in the land. But I have heard the swiftness of the judge which is to come. Therefore hear my voice and understand my words, and I shall speak before you. This is the beginning of the words of Ezra, before he was taken up. And I said, O YAHUAH, you that dwell in everlastingness, which behold from above things in the heaven and in the air, whose throne is inestimable, whose glory may not be comprehended, before whom the host of angels stand with trembling, whose service is conversant in wind and fire, whose word is true and sayings constant, whose commandment is strong and ordinance fearful, whose look dries up the depths, and indignation makes the mountains to melt away, which the truth witnesses. O hear the prayers of your servant, and give ear to the petition of your creature. For while I live I will speak, and so long as I have understanding I will answer. O look not upon the sins of your people, but on them which serve you in truth. Regard not the wicked inventions of the heathen, but the desire of those that guard your testimonies in afflictions. Think not upon those that have walked vainly before you, but remember them, which according to your will have known your fear. Let it not be your will to destroy them, which have lived like beasts, but to look upon them that clearly touch your Torah. Take no indignation at them which are deemed worse than beasts, but love them that always put their trust in your righteousness and your glory. For we and our fathers do languish of such diseases, but because of us sinners you shall be called merciful. For if you have a desire to have mercy upon us, you shall be called merciful, to us namely, that have no works of righteousness. For the just, which have many good works laid up with you, shall out of their own deeds receive reward. For what is man, that you should take displeasure at him? Or what is a corruptible generation, that you should be so bitter towards it? For in truth there is no man among them that be born, but he has dealt wickedly, and among the faithful there is none which has not done amiss. For in this, O YAHUAH, your righteousness and your goodness shall be declared, if you be merciful unto them which have not the confidence of good works. Then he answered me and said, Some things have you spoken aright, and according to your works it shall be. For indeed, I will not think of the disposition of them which have sinned before death, before judgment, before destruction. But I will rejoice over the disposition of the righteous, and I will remember also their pilgrimage and the YAHUAH, salvation, and the reward that they shall have. Like I have spoken now, so it shall come to pass. For as the husbandman sows much seed upon the ground and plants many trees, and yet the thing that is sown good in his season comes not up, neither does all that is planted take root. Even so is it of them that are sown in this world, they shall not all be saved. I answered then and said, If I have found grace, let me speak. Like as the husbandman's seed perish, if it not come up and receive not your rain in due season, or if there come too much rain and corrupt it, even so perishes man also which is formed with your hands, and is called in your own image, because you are like unto him. For whose sake have you made all things, and likened him unto the husbandman's seed? Be not wroth with us, but spare your people, and have mercy upon your own inheritance, for you are merciful unto your creature. Then he answered me and said, Things present are for the present, and things to come for such as be to come. For you come far short, than you should be able to love my creature more than I. But I have ofttimes drawn nigh unto you and unto it, but never to the unrighteous. And we could keep going with that. Those words there are they're strong words that we should be taking very seriously. We should not be looking at these words right here that we're good, we're covered. Yahushua HaMashiach is YAHUAH. YAHUAH is Yahushua. Yahushua is the fullness of the way of Yah. So that's how we are to think, speak, and behave. Okay, that's our spirit driving the body. But his death and resurrection has given us the ability now to come back into relationship, that we can now seek righteousness and receive the mercies that are being discussed right here. We don't deserve that. That's the grace, if we want to use the word grace here. That's the mercy given to us. And he says, you do not come anywhere near to have the love of my creation as do I. He loves us more is what he's saying. So, we have to pay very, very close attention and take it very seriously. And we have to recognize the struggle. Because this is all speaking about struggle here. The struggle for the things of the world that are constantly trying to pull us away from him. And we have to fight it. And it can feel really hard. It can feel overwhelming. But it's not. It's not. The longer that we're in his word, the easier, the more natural it becomes to follow it, to follow him. It's just how close or how much at a time are we going to throw ourselves into his way? Is it just a little bit at a time, or is it all in, all at once? The reality is it's going to be a mix of both. Because I started out personally all in. And then there were points where it was just a little bit at a time because I didn't want to let stuff go. I didn't realize I was hanging on to things. But the reality was I was hanging on to stuff that I have to look deeper into it, or I have to, I have to study more and seek him through his word and through prayer to get the answer that is the same answer that was told the first time I read it in his word. First time that he gave it to me in his word. So, but it comes down to how quickly we're going to get onto the way of YAHUAH. So the struggle's there, but the struggle gets easier to where it's no longer a struggle once we let go the things of the flesh, the things of this world. So Esau, he's the end of this world. And Yaakov is the beginning of the life to come, the world to come. That's what we focus on, is the life to come. Praise YAHUAH. That opportunity only comes through Yahushua, our Messiah. All right, I hope that this portion of the Parashah Toldot has blessed you, as it's blessed me, and has hopefully opened all of our eyes a little bit wider to the requirements of the Yisrael, the upright of El, and given us a deeper desire to want to be in the way of YAHUAH, to where we can become one. All right, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll be back here tomorrow with our part 2 of Parashah Toldot. Thank you.